Hi, I'm Eddie Burke. I've been the bartender at the Hollywood Improv for 40 years, and this is my podcast, Eddie's Bar at the Improv. Awesome. Hey guys, this is Eddie's Bar at the Improv podcast. This is Eddie Burke, and my guest today is Ahmed Ahmed, comedian, actor, writer, director.
Yeah, once.
Yeah, and everything else.
Thanks for having me on your podcast, man.
Oh, man, thank you
Good to
very
see
much.
you. And happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
And so let's cheers.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, we're drinking, guys.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know the old
I
saying.
hear you. So how'd you get started in this whole thing? What got you interested in comedy?
Well, I started out as an actor. I was an actor for about 7 years, and I was making a lot of money and making a living playing a lot of like stereotypical Hollywood, parts. The terrorist, the cab driver, the sleazy Arab guy.
I can't see how they'd see you as a terrorist.
I know. Look at this. And my agent said, and I complained. I said, hey, can I audition for like other stuff? And she said, well, change your name. And I was like, why should I change my name? She's like, because people, when they hear the name and read the name, Ahmed Ahmed, they immediately think Arab, Muslim. So she actually recommended I change my name to Rick. Rick Ahmed.
Rick Ahmed.
Like, that's going to make a difference. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick with Ahmed Ahmed. And then I said, just call me if you have, normal parts, the friend, the cop, the doctor, whatever. And she never called.
Oh, really?
So auditions stopped coming in. I ran out of money. I went back to waiting tables. I used to work at Kevin Costner's restaurant.
Oh,
in fact, he owned a restaurant in Pasadena called Twin Palms. It was a like a rustic country French cuisine, big place, pretty nice place. And I was making a lot of money as a waiter because the food wasn't great, but my service was. So I'd make my customers laugh. I was, like you behind the bar, lighting cigars, pouring drinks, patting people on the back, high-fiving, being chummy with my customers and guests. And they would, I was making a lot of money. And all the other waiters were like, how are you making so much money? And I was just like, well, look at me,
Being nice to people.
I'm just being nice to people, yeah.
Yeah, it's I know it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Excuse me for being nice. And then one day a woman came in. She had 5 sons with her. That they were all older, like my age, like in their 50s, maybe even 60s, but and all gay, like obviously gay, but dressed really like distinctly with ascots and blazers and bifocals, and they were like these really sort of proper like older gay men. And this woman who had like this big blue bouffant hairdo and jewelry, she was probably like widowed, maybe old Pasadena money. She grabbed me by my collar. I'll never forget it. She pulled me close to her and she said, "You're very funny. You should be a comedian." And I looked at her and like the world stopped.
Wow.
It was a busy restaurant, 500 people, live band. And I just kind of stared at her and everything kind of just got silent around me. And I looked at her really intently. And I said, "You think you know funny?" And she goes, "Of course I do. Look at all my sons." And they all started clapping and laughing. They were like, "Ah, mother." And then she gave me $300 cash tip.
Wow.
It's right there on the side. And the bill wasn't even,
That much? Can you call her and ask her to come see me?
You know what's so funny? I know, you should go down to Eddie's Bar at the Improv.
Yeah.
No, it was a weird thing because I never saw her. I worked at that restaurant for probably another 6-7 months. And I never saw her come in there after that. It was almost like a little comedy angel that came in and gave me this like little sparkle of a message. What I realized is when you work in the service industry, bartender, waiter, it's like being a stand-up comic. And I just thought, you know what? Let me remove the food aspect of it and just go direct to the consumer.
Great. Interesting.
And so that's kind of how I got into stand-up. I just started doing open mics. I used to run a show on Sunset called Dublin's. I don't know if you remember that show.
I sure do.
With Jay Davis.
Right.
That's where every comic, famous or not, either performed or got famous. Well, Dane Cook to this day will say he got famous, at Dublin. So that that kind of sparked my kind of
Your
comedy
interest in-
career because I was booking a room and I was creating space for myself. I wasn't past here at the Improv or the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory at that point. So I was like, I just got to create my own space, and that's what I did.
No, it was a good move. And just so you know, if I took the bar away and went straight, comedy would end. There would be no more comedy. It would all be over. I
don't
guarantee
say
you.
that. Don't say that.
I guarantee
You're
you.
beloved here, man. I see people come in here. A lot of people come in here just to have a drink with you. They're not really here to watch a show or meet anybody. I see that a lot. It's
I
a cool
appreciate
thing.
that.
Yeah.
And it's look, it's been a long run, and it's.
How long have you been here?
I have been here 40 years.
Jeez.
And we're about to have a surprise 40th anniversary
That's right.
party
I got the
for
invite.
me in a
That's
couple of
amazing.
weeks, and that should be very interesting. So we'll see.
That's amazing, man.
But getting back to you, Mr. Ahmed, you were born in Egypt.
Yeah, I was born in Egypt. My father got his immigration papers actually the day I was born.
Oh, cool.
So he ran into the hospital room. We're going to America. It was like it was a
You
lion.
remember that, don't you?
Well, I don't remember it, but when they tell me the moment, but it was a little bit of a Lion King moment,
Uh-huh.
Everybody was dancing and moving their hips. And anyway, we ended up in Riverside, California.
1 month after you were born?
About a month and a half. My older sister, my mom, my dad. My dad used to pump gas at a Shell gas station in Riverside
Okay.
for $1.75 an hour back then.
Right,
And
well,
then
that's when gas was 35 cents a gallon.
Right.
I hate to say I remember that, but
I remember. I was there. So, excuse me. So,
he's not going to cut that out. I got news for you.
no, it's okay. It's natural.
So you grew up in Pasadena?
No, I grew up in Riverside.
In Riverside? I'm
Riverside,
sorry.
and then I went to high school. I had a pretty relatively normal upbringing. Outside of my household. Mm-hmm. Going to school and playing sports and being involved in activities and school plays and. I would hike up in the mountains near my house a lot. I would, the whole trying to have a girlfriend in high school, was a challenge. And
what got you interested in acting?
So I used to because I didn't like being at home. We had my parents are technically third world immigrants.
Okay.
So we didn't have a traditional American upbringing. We never got a timeout.
What'd you get?
I got the back of my dad's hand.
All right.
Sometimes a fist.
That's
right?
the American way too.
Yeah, but my dad did some next level Chinese water torture shit. It wasn't. I don't know if I should disclose this on.
That's okay.
But he would just he was strict, and back then
Just so you know, excuse me, you can reveal anything. I've only got 3 listeners, so that's it. It's not going very far.
Well, I'm sure it'll grow.
Go.
Listen, all 3 of you. I had a rough upbringing. No, he was just he would discipline us in a way that I thought was excessive. Mm-hmm. So I just never wanted to be home. We lived near the mountains, so I would every chance I got go hiking up in the mountains and have my Moses moment, talk to God and all that. But I would go to on the weekends, all day Saturday, Sunday. I would buy 1 ticket to the movie theater and then movie hop, and just go from movie to movie. And I was fascinated by films, and then during the week after school, before I'd go to bed, I was really into the 70s sitcoms, All in the Family, Chico and the Man, Happy Days, Three's Company, 70s, 80s, going into Everybody Loves Raymond and shows like that, Roseanne. It was I was really fascinated by sitcoms because I felt like our house was a sitcom. So I could relate to the craziness a little bit in that sense. So that's what made me inspired to want to be an actor.
You ended up doing Roseanne at one point.
I was,
yes.
yeah. Wow. Does that
Yeah.
on Wikipedia?
Oh yeah, no.
IMDb, I did. That's right.
I follow your entire career. Wait till you hear what I got to say. It's you'll be in jail by the time I'm finished.
Hey, listen, all 3 of you, you know where I'm at.
After high school, you went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
That's right. Well, after high school, I moved to LA first.
Okay.
I worked Well, after high school, I was working in a health club, a Holiday Spa health club, and I signed up this guy. I used to sell memberships, and this guy came in. He must have been 7 feet tall, big, gigantic, just beast of a human being. And for occupation, we had to find out what they did. I said, "So what do you do?" He said, "I'm a stand-in in all the Halloween movies." Or no, it was a Halloween.
Yeah, there was Halloween. It was
Halloween. He was the Mike Myers stand-in.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, how did you get into that?" And he's like, "Oh, there's this company I work with. Here's the contact if you ever want to check it out." So I did. I called him up. I drove down to Hollywood. They took a Polaroid picture of me, and I filled out like a little 3x5 card with my measurements. And the next day, they called me and they said, "Hey, we're casting extras for this after-school special called The Fourth Man, starring Peter Billingsley, who, if you don't know Peter Billingsley, he was the kid from A Christmas Story.
Oh, that's
and
right.
he's transitioned into producing and
blonde
directing.
kid, yeah.
Right. And now he's a producer, a big producer and director and so forth. But and an unknown actor by the name of Vince Vaughn. And it takes place at a high school, and the storyline is that Peter Billingsley's character has a crush on a girl who was played by Nicole Eggett. I don't know if you remember her from Baywatch.
I remember the name.
Charles in
Yes,
Charge.
I do.
Cute blonde girl.
I remember the bathing suit.
He was right. He had a crush on her, and but she would only date jocks. So he joined the track team, but he wasn't fast enough. So he took steroids
Oh, God.
to gain strength and be faster. And Vince Vaughn played his best friend, who was a high school quarterback, who's like, "Don't do drugs. I'll tell the coach." And I was an extra on the track team. That when I found out Peter's character took steroids, I would walk by him and like roll my eyes, like, "Look at this loser."
Yeah, there was your debut. I love it.
And that's how I met those two guys, and we've been best friends ever since.
So let's jump a little to Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn has been...
He's in the news.
Yeah.
Have you guys? He shook Trump's hand. God forbid.
Oh, gee, Vince Vaughn did?
Yeah, he was at a football game 2 nights ago, and Donald Trump was there. And I don't know if he went over to Trump or if Trump said, "Hey, will you invite Mr. Vaughn over?" But there was video of them talking, and then Vince shook his hand.
Okay.
And social media went fucking cuckoo over it. Vince Vaughn is canceled.
Oh,
like shit like that. It's like canceled. Shut up with your canceled.
Yeah,
fucking
give it a
culture,
rest.
Fucking liberals. Shut
Did
up.
Vince Vaughn has been kind of pivotal in your career? I mean, you've gone on the Axis of Evil. Was that no, not the Axis of Evil?
Axis of Evil was created by myself, Maz Jobrani, and this guy Aaron Cater.
Since I accidentally said that must have been a trip. I mean, you guys doing that.
Yeah, I could. I can go back to that, but to just coattail with the Vince thing, Vince did the Wild West comedy tour. We did 30 cities in 30 nights on a tour bus. And Sebastian Maniscalco, who's a big star now, he was in on it. Brett Ernst, John Caparello. Then he had a bunch of like well-known guest appearances from John Favreau and Keir O'Donnell and Justin Long and Dwight Yoakam, musical guests. And then they shot it as a documentary. And then it, I don't even know where it's at right now. I think it's...
Did they still do it?
The tour? No. But the documentary, it's out there somewhere. Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy show.
And he also, you did Steve Burns' show, which I believe Vince produced or whatever?
Yeah, him and Peter. So Steve, I know, we both know Steve.
Sure.
Steve Byrne is a good friend of mine, comic who moved out here from New York. We became friends, really great friends, in fact. I introduced him to Vince and my little circle of friends. They became friends. And then Steve went to him with a show idea one time and was like, "Hey, I got this idea for a show. It's kind of like Cheers. It takes place in a bar." They took it to Rob Long, who coincidentally was the showrunner on Cheers. And they sold it to TBS. They wrote me a part. We did 3 seasons.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably as an actor the best experience I've ever had because it wasn't really acting. I was playing myself.
And you were working with a lot of friends.
Yeah, all my friends. I mean, Roy Wood Jr., Vince, Peter, Steve, obviously.
Sure, that in itself had to be a lot of fun.
It was
it's
fun.
such a relaxed atmosphere.
There was a couple tense moments, working with friends sometimes, familiarity breeds contempt.
Oh yeah.
But, we weathered the storm, when we had to. And
Yeah, I have to admit, I watched the show and I enjoyed it.
yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah.
Christine Ebersol, Dan Lauria, Jody Long, Valerie Aslin, Vivian Bang,
A long list
Brian
of
Doyle Murray, who's a monster.
long list of
actor,
people that
yeah, it was a big
that
cast.
have a lot of history.
It was fun, man. We were all disappointed that it didn't, go
Keep
the
going.
distance. Yeah, but
That's TV. That's
I'll
life.
tell you what, I was shocked we even got a pilot. So the fact that we went 3
I hear
seasons,
ya.
I was like, and then we toured too. Myself, Roy Wood Jr., Steve, and Owen Benjamin. The 4 of us would go tour around the U.S. when the show wrapped to promote it.
Oh, great.
So we would do comedy clubs and
Mm-hmm.
do meet and greets and.
So speaking about touring, you've toured and you've played all over the world, all over. You've been a lot to the Middle East. You've got quite a reputation in the Middle East.
Correct.
You have been down. Let's talk about. I think it's Dubai.
Yeah.
Your tour down there when things didn't. I don't want to say didn't go well, but went south.
Well, it's interesting because Dubai was the first Middle East city in the UAE, but city in the Middle East that, that's where I sold the comedy concept. So stand-up comedy never, at least Western stand-up comedy, never existed in the Middle East before we arrived. Mm-hmm. So I had gotten booked to do a private event for 500 really wealthy Arabs in Dubai. It was like a fundraiser thing. And had a really good set, 45-minute set, and that kind of sparked the interest, like, oh, who's this Middle Eastern, American stand-up comic? Like, this could work. And then we did a underground show that wasn't permitted, just to get a little bit of a flavor and taste of what people would want. And we promoted the show to about a dozen people, just on email, and 400 people showed up.
Wow.
48 hours later, it was crazy. And it was a really expat kind of vibe. It was Arabs and Aussies and South African and British and Lebanese and Egyptian and Indian and Croatian and Russian and I mean, all people from all over the world. What's up, guys? And we thought, oh, okay, well, we're on to something. And then I did my show and I killed it. So then we did a follow-up show, but we actually got permits.
You were allowed to do that.
I was allowed to do the show. And then we did a show at the Radisson Hotel in Media City in Dubai. About 150 people showed up. And I did a half-hour set. And then I showed our unedited Comedy Central Presents for Axis of Evil, Maz and Aaron. I just showed 15 minutes of them on a projector. Mm-hmm. And people went nuts. And I was me kind of being it was almost like a PowerPoint presentation or I was like a traveling
Right.
salesman. This is our thing. This is our brand. Axis of Evil. Blah blah blah. And at the time, Showtime Arabia was in Dubai. Excuse me. They loved it. They licensed the special. So now they're going to play us on Showtime Arabia, our half-hour special. And I had just come off the coattails of Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy tour. So I thought, why don't we take that concept, copy and paste it for the Middle East? So I pitched this idea to Showtime Arabia. Why don't you guys play our special? At the end, we'll shoot some bumpers saying, hey, everybody, I'm Ahmed Ahmed. This is Maz Jobrani. This is Eric Cater. We're coming to Lebanon December 1st or whatever. We're coming to Dubai. And so we did that, and we sold 20,000 tickets.
Wow.
In 30 days. We did 27 shows.
Jeez. All right.
In 30 days, or was it? Yeah,
And
27 shows, 30 days, and we sold 20,000 tickets.
In a country that was not used to Western comedy.
Well, Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait. And then we went back several times after and did Bahrain and Oman and other countries. But so that sparked, we were like the Beatles in the Middle East. I remember Maz Jobrani and I were walking through the Mall of the Emirates, which is this really popular, famous mall in Dubai. And every 5 minutes, man, hey, Axis of Evil, can we take a picture? Axis of Evil. I started getting a little sick of it because I was like, I'm not Blue Man Group. I have a name.
You are there.
But I remember Sebastian Maniscalco, because we did a follow-up tour when Axis of Evil broke up. And that's where my documentary, Just Like Us, sort of, had risen from the rubble of the breakup of Axis of Evil. And we brought Sebastian Maniscalco there for a show, Maz and I. And we got invited to this like hot nightclub in Dubai, and people were all over us, Maz and I. And Sebastian looked at me. We were sitting at the bar. I'll never forget it. He goes, "Who are you?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "They fucking love you guys here. Do yourself a favor. Don't go back to the U.S. Stay here." He always does this thing. Mm-hmm. So then we kind of milked that, tour for a while, for a couple years. And then in my Comedy Central special in the U.S., there's a joke that I do about a mosque and a nightclub across the street from each other in Dubai. I don't know if you know the joke.
No, I don't.
It's not a joke. It's just an observation. But there's a mosque and it's not even just, back then it was one mosque and a nightclub, but now it's several. But anywhere in Dubai, in a lot of progressive, quote unquote, progressive Muslim countries that have alcohol and nightclubs and stuff, at any given moment, you'll hear the call for prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Allah. So the juxtaposition is fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
So I was like, the Muslims
But great,
here,
I like that.
I was like, the Muslims must be confused. They're like, should I go pray? Should I go dance? I don't know. I love God, but I love P. Diddy too. I want to dance. So that joke ended up on the internet, and the authorities in Dubai caught it, and they thought I was being blasphemous toward Islam and putting down like their city. And so I was banned for a year from performing public shows. The good news is I was hired to do almost a dozen corporate events, like private shows.
In Dubai.
Mm-hmm. So they're not ticketed or public. So I would literally, I did 10 of these, man. It was the weirdest thing. I would get this email, I'd book the thing. I would show up at the Four Seasons Hotel, first class, Mercedes-Benz limo pick me up, suite hotel. The organizer would come out smoking a cigar. Ahmed Ahmed from Axis of Evil. Thank you so much for coming to Dubai. How was your flight? Did you get your car on time? Everything is okay. My friends and I were very excited to have you here. But I want to ask you a question. Is it true you're banned in Dubai? And I was like, yeah, is that a problem? They're like, that's so fucking cool, man. Bro, here, say whatever you want. It's not public. So then I'd go up on stage and there'll be 50 dudes with their wives smoking very expensive cigars and drinking Black Label at the Four Seasons Hotel, and I'm doing dick jokes and shit like that.
Just loving it.
And they were dying. And, and then the ban was lifted eventually. And
you brought up Just For Us. Just For Us is...
Just Like Us.
Just Like Us, that's your directorial debut too,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that documentary.
When Axis of Evil, split, we did a follow-up tour. Same countries, different comics. So Whitney Cummings came with us, Sebastian Maniscalco, Eric Griffin, Angelo Sarukis, Omid Jalili, Tommy Davidson. Who else was on that tour? There's a lot of comics, man.
All right.
And Maz Jobrani was on it. Anyway, we had a pre-sold out tour. Four or five countries. Same thing, 20,000 tickets sold out. About 2 days before we were about to leave to do the tour, a friend of mine who is an investor out of New York called me up and he's like, hey, I was checking out your website. Looks like you're about to go back out on tour. And I said, yeah. He said, are you, what's the capacity? I said, we'll probably sell, 20,000+. He's like, wow, which countries? Dubai, Lebanon, Saudi, Egypt. are you filming it? I said, no, I wasn't planning on it. He's like, you should film it. I said, well, I'll probably take pictures and do stuff with my kids. He's like, no, professionally. I was like, oh, yeah, we're leaving in 48 hours and something like that minimum will cost, $100,000. He's like, I'll write the check. Just do it. And I was like, well, like I said, we're leaving in 48 hours, so I got to go hire 2 cameramen and insure the equipment and book their flights and hotel. He's like, just get it done.
Wow.
I said, look, man, you put the money in the bank and I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it just...
Right.
I don't... When you say jump, I don't say how high. He's like, fine, check your account tomorrow. First thing in the morning, my accountant called me up. She's like, hey, somebody deposited $50,000 in your account. I was like... So I called him up. I was like, oh, you're serious? He's like, yeah, just start with that, and I'll funnel the rest as we go. I said, you're sure about this? He said, yeah. I hired 2 camera guys, and they followed me around the Middle East for a month. We shot 200 hours of footage. We went into an editing room in New York for 6 months and cut it into a 72-minute documentary, and we premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. And
was this just showing what it was showing? Just the tour itself, or
it was we created a company called Cross Cultural Entertainment because the whole movie is more about cross cultural dialogue through humor, not necessarily like, we're Arabs and we laugh too. It wasn't like that kind of message.
Damn,
it was
I
more
didn't know
like
that.
if if you laugh at ourselves, if we laugh at ourselves, the rest of the world will laugh with us. And so that was kind of the message. And to see Whitney Cummings and Eric Griffin and Sebastian Maniscalco and Omi Jalili and Tommy Davidson and all these American British comics perform in front of, women wearing hijab and guys in their, thobes, like, very strict Muslim audiences for the most part.
You did
laughing like hysterically. And dirty jokes too.
People they come out of their shells when they're in private. You did another documentary, The Pilgrimage, or
Gosh, you dug that up. That's a script that I wrote. I never made it because
did you not? You won the Edinburgh Richard Pryor Award was it for that, or was it for just like us?
The Edinburgh Comedy Festival in Scotland. Mm-hmm. Well, Edward, thank you for
my pleasure.
Acknowledging my awards. Joking. Edinburgh Comedy Festival.
Right.
30,000 people flood in. About 2,000 acts. 400 of us were stand-up comics. That year that I was there in 2004, Jennifer Pryor, Richard Pryor's wife, decided to do like an ethnic comedy award. And for some reason, like Edinburgh Comedy Festival reached out to her or vice versa. But 17 of us were nominated and I won it. Right. And Richard Pryor, he wasn't there, but I guess they taped our sets and then they shipped them for him to watch. And he said something, he gave me a really nice compliment, or he quoted something like, Ahmed Ahmed is, dangerously funny.
Coming from him, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, he was the reason. Him and Eddie Murphy are the reasons why I got into stand-up. So.
Well, let's fast forward for a minute to today or this era. You recently came back from Asia. In the last year, and there we go again. Somebody else got banned.
Yeah.
Also, somebody named Ahmed Ahmed. What'd you do down there, buddy?
So I got offered to work for a comedy events company in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. I still love Malaysia, but it's a little bit of a corrupt...
I gotta tell you, I love guys that cause trouble. So it's like...
I mean, look, every country has corruption, in their government and their system, but Malaysia's, it's up there in corruption. Anyway, I was working for an events company, and then I was doing stand-up comedy at night in and around Kuala Lumpur, but also like in other countries. So I would travel. The comedy industry in Asia is still in its infant stages, but you can go do like 200-seat, 150-seat, venues for like expats and make a couple $100 and they put you up in a hotel, they fly you out internally. So I would do Singapore, Philippines, Tokyo, mainland China, Hong Kong, Indonesia. There's like a, pretty huge expat comedy scene in Asia. It just hasn't, unless you're a movie star, or real famous comic, you're not going to sell thousands of tickets. It's not that kind of jam.
Right.
At any rate, I was considered a high-profile comedian in Malaysia. And there is an Islamic branch of the government called the PAS Party, P-A-S. And they're very conservative, like Muslim organization. And apparently their keyboard warriors went online and scrubbed the internet, and they found the joke that got me banned in Dubai. That's on YouTube.
Oh my God!
Swear to fucking God, bro. They found that joke that got me banned 13 years ago, and they pulled it up. And I was literally at a comedy club called Crack House Comedy Club in Kuala Lumpur. I would perform there every Tuesday. And it wasn't an open mic. It was like a work in progress night. So all the headliner comics would come up with their notes and just try new shit in front of like 10 people. Didn't get paid. It wasn't that kind of thing. And 4 immigration officers showed up. And they were like, "Are you Ahmed Ahmed?" I said, "Yeah." "Can we see your passport?" Pulled it up on my phone. They're like, "You need to have your physical passport on you at all times." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." They're like, "Yeah, next time have it." And they're like, "Well, we've been getting reports against you." And I'm like, "Oh, from who?" And they're like, "We can't tell you." And I'm like, "What are the reports?" "We can't tell you. But you're not allowed to perform in Malaysia anymore."
Oh God!
And I was like, "Ow, okay." And then they looked at the lineup and they're like, "Is that you on the lineup?" And I said, "Yeah." They're like, "Are you going to perform tonight?" And I was like, "Not now." No.
You just said no.
And then I called a friend of mine who's like pretty connected in Malaysia, and I was like, "Can you find out what the fuck's going on?" And so he did. He said it was this. They were getting complaints from this Islamic branch of the government, because Malaysia is 60% Muslim, but they're backwards Muslims.
Old school.
They're not even old school. They just interpreted the Quran in their own like fucking weird way, and it's not progressive thinking at all. So, the fact that I said Islam and nightclub in the same joke is considered blasphemous.
Yeah.
So it was that joke that that came back to haunt me, and it got me banned in Malaysia. And so my friend said, "Look, they told me that this was the joke, that you probably can't perform in Malaysia any longer, but you can get a work visa," because he wanted to open a comedy club with me in Malaysia. He's like, "You can get a work visa, and I have to apply for it, but I have to wait until the dust settles. So you should leave the country," they said, "for like 6-7 months and then come back." I was like, "Bro, you had me at leave the country. I'm not coming fucking back to Malaysia."
That's it.
And then literally within 48 hours, dude, I packed my bag. I was like, I fled the country.
Yeah.
I was going through the airport. I felt like Ben Affleck in Argo.
I don't blame you.
A little bead of sweat coming down my thing. I was on the airplane. I'm like, "Just start the fucking engines. Let's go."
Yeah, you better take your chance when you got it and get
then
out.
Once I left, I posted something on social media. Once I went to Thailand after that for 10 days. And then once I got to my hotel and I settled in, I posted something on social media, and I posted the joke, a clip of it. And people were like, "What the fuck? Twice?" My next comedy special is going to be called Twice Banned, Once Shy.
Well, one more little, let's say, off-color moment. Miami, Florida. You
Naples.
Yes.
Last May. I know where you're going with this.
So then take it away.
So not only do I get banned in other countries, Muslim countries for that matter, I got to come back to my own country, America, and have somebody call 911 on me.
Because of what you said on a joke. Yeah.
Did you know this? Did you hear this? Did you read it?
I did.
It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I think I've experienced some crazy shit in my life as a person and as a comedian. This, I think, trumps everything. I'm at Off the Hook Comedy Club in Naples, Florida. I performed there many a time. 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, 1 show Sunday. Apparently somebody was at my Saturday night show and they went home that night, and then the next day they called 911 on me over a joke that he thought I told. Like, he slept on the emergency. Who sleeps in the fucking emergency, bro? So I'm waiting for the show to start. I'm back in the back of the room looking at my notes. Manager walks up. He's like, "Hey, bro, there's 2 Naples police officers outside that want to talk to you." I said, "For what?" "I guess you told a joke on stage last night that made somebody fear for their lives so much that they called 911. I was like, are you fucking fist fucking me right now? What the fuck? He's like, no, man, I would never fist fuck you. That's not gonna happen here. I said, so he said, just go outside. I go outside, black female cop, Mexican male cop. So they sent 2 ethnic cops down, just in case. And there, I was like, I was very nervous because I didn't know what the fuck they were gonna do to me. I said, hi, officers, everything all right? They're like, they didn't want to be there, I could tell. They had that look on their face like, we just had to respond to the dispatch kind of vibe. I was like, everything all right? They're like, yeah. Are you Ahmed Ahmed? I said, yeah. Are you the comic that performed here last night? I said, yeah. I heard somebody called 911 on me. They were like, yeah. I said, so what happened? So like, look, we just had to come down here by law, by protocol. We have to respond to this dispatch. But don't change any of your material. Just keep doing what you do. The Mexican male cop told me that. And I picked up my phone and I was like, can I record this shit? And the black female cop looked at me and she goes, you can record whatever you want. Like, please record it and fucking post it. So I recorded them interviewing me. They were very nice. That night I posted it on Twitter like, you know, first time ever. I've never had anybody call 911 on me. 2 cops showed up. Here's a video. Thoughts or something. Like, I wasn't even like trying to like, you know, start a freaking debate or war. And then I went to sleep that night. I woke up the next morning, had like 500,000 views and went viral.
Oh, sure.
People were full-blown fucking global debate happening on Twitter. Like, what the fuck's wrong? These goddamn snowflakes. Political correctness is out the door. You know, what the fuck? What happened to freedom of speech, Islamophobia, racism toward Arab? Like, it was a whole... I got pushed out of the conversation. It wasn't even about me.
No longer about you. I want you to tell everybody where they can see the video because I watched the video. It's great.
The animated video?
Yes, the animated video.
So just to give you a backstory, when the incident happened, first of all, it made global news. It was I was on CNN, TMZ, NBC, Washington Post, New York Post, New York Times. It was like 300 news publications picked it up. I did like 20, 30 like syndicated radio shows. Every morning people will call me up, hey, is this Ahmed Ahmed, the dangerous comic? I'm like, oh, hey. They're like, what happened in Florida, man? You know, that would tell the story. And then a friend of mine named Tom Winkler, who used to be an animator for The Simpsons, he has this thing with YouTube where he finds topical subjects that come up on feeds, because it was big news for 15 minutes. I was on the front page of the Drudge Report, Yahoo.com, top 5 Google search, you know, that day or whatever. So he read it and then he grabbed the call because it's public domain and he animated it. He made an animated version of the call. So the actual voice of the caller and the dispatcher, he animated, and it's brilliant. If you go on my website, ahmedahmed.com, AHMED.com. I also posted it on my Instagram, IGTV. It's at Ahmed Comedy on my Instagram. So yeah, so he animated it.
You'll love it. It's hilarious. It's the guy. It's one of the slowest talking. Well, I don't know if I should be calling you. If this, maybe I've got the wrong department.
You want to hear a funny story?
Go ahead.
Watch this. It's a 2-parter. So we found out who it was because he gives himself up in the call. He's like, I was at last night's show. this comedian said this. First of all, the joke is, hey, any Middle Eastern people in the audience? A few people clap. I'm like, oh, great, there's a small group of us, but hey, it only takes one of us.
Right.
That's the joke. And then I say, to tell a joke, but seriously, lock the doors. That's
And
the
that
joke.
was it.
And he got fucking scared, and he said that I said in the call, oh, he said, are there any Middle Eastern people? And a bunch of people raised their hand. And he said, oh, that's great. We could start our own little terrorist organization. Which I never said. But
No,
here's
you
the funny...
didn't, but he did say that.
He said that, but here's the funny thing. I do meet and greets after my shows. Like, he must have walked past me and seen me. I'm shaking hands, taking pictures, thanking people for coming out. Terrorists don't do meet and greets. It's kind of a known thing, guy. So he's like, I go to the thing all the time. I get free tickets. I was there with my wife. So the owner, Brian Spina, did a little cross check and found out it was this guy. His name's, I don't want to out him online.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll remember that face. Oh, that was a better face. All right.
Hold on. Watch this.
Of course.
And the animated figure looks like him a little bit, right? And the
Yeah, it
animator
does.
Tom didn't even know. He just decided he looked like that. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
Anyway, I friended him on Facebook. And here's what he said. Hi, Ahmed. I was at your show tonight, and you really killed it. You were great. Thanks for sending me a friend request, which I approved, but I'm wondering, how do you know me? Did you find me through Off the Hook or through my brother Ted Daniels' comedy business? Well, either way, we are Facebook friends now. I will follow you on Instagram. I will also follow you on Instagram. By the way, okay, first of all, I did a follow-up show after all the press. So this was after the follow-up show.
Okay.
By the way, I think that it was great of you to perform again with such short notice. I wonder if the 911 caller knew that instead of bringing you down, he was going to make you more famous.
No
I'm
denial there, huh?
I am happy for you. Keep up the great work, buddy.
Wow.
Frank. Now check this out. Let me just show you one other thing. So then I get a message from the 911 operator. She direct messaged me on Twitter. And she wrote...
This is unusual.
It's awesome, dude. Where is it? Her name is Barbara. We actually became friends. Hold on.
You got to love this stuff. I mean, it's like this is the 911 operator and the caller becoming friends with you.
Right. I should make a documentary about
You
it.
really should.
Surviving 911
In Naples, Florida.
in Naples, Florida. Shit, where is her thing? Here it is. Barbara Ann. Hey. That's how she sounds like in my head. Hey, just wanted to let you know I was the 911 operator that took the call in Naples about you. As you can imagine, we have to be nice to everyone and tell them that if they have a concern, we will address it. But I was thinking, oh boy, this is not a good look for Naples. Apologies, I had to send them out to you. Happy to hear you'll be back. Funny thing is I think the caller was struggling with the fact that he knew he was a racist and probably thought he wasn't before he called.
Oh, she hits it right on the head.
Or not, but it just didn't sit well with him and thought he should tell someone. He also didn't call 911. He called the non-emergency line, so he was smart enough not to tie up 911 lines with nonsense. Have a great day, Barbara.
Oh, that's funny because when you listen to that tape and especially watching it on video on the cartoon
That's
video.
the 911 caller or operator.
Wow. You
Operator.
should have gone for a date. Did you call her?
No.
You should have.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I would have. I hope my wife's not listening. Yeah.
Eddie, where are we going with this?
Yeah. I don't know.
This
We've
podcast made a left
changed.
turn.
Yeah, we've changed. We took a
All
real
right,
big turn. But
cheers to that. Cheers to the 911.
watching the video, before he described, I believe he says you're Middle Eastern. he pauses for almost a minute trying to get it out. Like, do I say he's this or that rather than, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm a racist. Well, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, he's his name's Ahmed Ahmed, and he's
Yeah.
Middle Eastern. And then later on in the call, he's like, the operator's like, all right, well, we can send somebody out, and he's like, yeah, because there are about 25 Muslims there.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I felt
there were 25 Muslims out of 1 billion. There were only 25.
I felt bad for her because you could see or you could hear
it in her voice.
Yeah, that she's
didn't
like,
want to be there.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Why
Well, that's
are you
why it
even
was so
calling?
nice that she reached out to me, because she was like,
Okay,
Yeah.
comedy. Let's talk about comedy. Who's been your comedy idols growing up, and people that you kind of like enjoy listening to, or maybe fashion yourself after a little bit?
I mean, I try not to fashion myself on, like based on anybody else's comedy stylings, because I try to be original. But obviously, comedians, when you watch, your idols or people that you grew up with, just kind of by pure sort of subconscious, adaptation, you collect nuances and inflections and a way somebody might say something or whatever. But Eddie Murphy was the guy who made me want to do stand-up comedy. When I watched Delirious, when he's in that red leather suit, I was 9 years old. I was like, look at this young black 22-year-old, super confident, coming on stage in a red leather suit. Like, when you're a kid, you're just like, I was wowed by this, man.
Yeah,
10,000 people in Washington, D.C., and murdering it with his, not jokes for the most. He had a couple jokes, but most of it was storytelling.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is inspiring. And then after I watched that, then I went back and I started Pryor, Carlin, this, that, and the other thing. Right now, my two favorite comics right now in the world, I would probably say, are Ellen DeGeneres and Chappelle.
What reason?
I love Ellen's innocence and sarcasm. Did you watch her Golden Globes
Sure.
speech?
Yeah.
It was so brilliantly timed, and just her timing is impeccable. And she's such a sweet soul and super endearing, and she's like an open book. I really respect where she's taken her career, but really just stand-up comedy. Like, did you watch her special on Netflix?
No, I have not.
It's great. She talks about being rich, but she does it in such a way that's not, you don't go, fuck that rich bitch. You know? You go, like, she talks about, getting, it's her special is called Relatable. She's trying to relate to regular people. One of her bits is, when you get out of the shower and the towel's on the other side of the thing, but you get on the bath rug and you have to shimmy across the bathroom to get the towel. I do the same thing. However, my bathroom's the size of your house, so it's a long shimmy.
Definitely.
And then, but I don't only shimmied halfway because my butler came and brought me a robe. Yeah, her timing and sarcasm is just brilliant, but it's also humble. Because she came from humble beginnings. Most comics have. I don't know any real comedians that came from money.
Yeah.
Most comics that have money didn't have it when they started.
Because I guess you have to laugh at what makes you suffer.
Sure.
In a lot of ways.
And then Chappelle, just to finish my thought here, Chappelle, he's just funny. He's just naturally funny. He just has it. And Chappelle, he's come in here 1,000 times. But what I also like about Chappelle is he also has humility, and he's humble. And he found his lane as a comic. And I like the fact that he disappeared for 10 years. And everyone was like, he's done. He's washed up. Chappelle's over. Motherfucker came back and made $60 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
Off of 2 or 3 specials for Netflix. Then he started getting movie part, and then it's like he's an anomaly. He's for sure a unicorn.
And he pushes the envelope, and
He does, and he does it with his delivery is brilliant. His innocent. He's also an innocent kind of soul.
Yeah.
He's not a.
one I guess through line that most comics tell me, as far as sort of their idols, is Chappelle, is Carlin. Those two guys, and Pryor. And Eddie Murphy too is
Sure.
right, constantly. I
Yeah.
mean, these guys are the ones that everybody mentions all the time.
They were
And
a pioneer. You can go back and go like Lenny Bruce and that kind of thing. But as far as my generation was concerned, I wasn't alive when Lenny Bruce was around. Well, he died when?
Lenny Bruce, God,
Yeah. Early
Yeah.
70s. I was a kid. I was like 2-3 years old. But
me too.
But Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy kind of sparked. Actually, I take that back. The first stand-up comedy I ever listened to was Steve Martin.
Oh,
My friend who lived on our block, his dad had like this office/den. It was like his manhole or whatever. So he had man cave. So he had like, rock and roll albums, comedy albums, Playboy magazines, Lava Lamp. It was
throw
dark.
that Playboy magazine in there. I
Yeah.
love it.
So we were 8-9 years old, and we used to, when his dad would go to work, we would go through all his shit, And I remember he pulled out a Steve Martin album and he played it. I remember us laying on the floor. It was like right out of a fucking, I can't think of the Cameron Crowe or John Hughes movie. We were laying on the carpet on the floor, closed our eyes, lava lamp, trickling in the back, lights out, listening to Steve Martin. What was the name of the album? The one where he had the
arrow through his head.
King Tut, doo doo
Yes.
doo. How'd you get so funky, Funk King Tut, doo doo doo? Did you do the monkey?
You could do a Steve
Born in
Martin interview.
Arizona,
Imitation.
moved to California, King Tut. But when I was listening to him, because it wasn't visual, it was just audio, and I remember going, "Wow, there's a man on stage talking in front of people, making them laugh. How powerful is that?" And that was the kind of seed that was planted. And then, like a year or two later, Delirious came out. And I watched it on VHS. And I was like, wow, this motherfucker's bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do that. But first, let me be an actor. So I went into acting first, thinking that was the call. And it just wasn't.
Well, but that's on. I don't think that's true from what I've seen and read. You still do. You still perform as an actor. You still get jobs as an actor. You may not.
not
You may
recently.
not be. Well, you may not be pushing that part, but
Yeah, I mean, look,
It's
I
there.
auditioned for. The thing is with acting, as you know, it's like playing the lottery. You just never know. I went into audition. True story. I went to an audition last night at Warner Brothers for an Afghani interpreter for like a Navy SEAL show. Mm-hmm. Bro, I walked in. There were 30 guys who looked like me,
yeah,
who actually were from Afghanistan or Iran and spoke Darsi and
Yeah.
Pashtush or whatever. I fucking walked out.
really.
I called my agent and I was like, too many guys. I'm not gonna get it, and I don't speak the language. Like, I don't want to waste your time. Like, let's just call spade for a spade. She emailed me today and she's like, they're still seeing people tomorrow if you want to go in. I was like, all right, maybe. It's like I don't.
Yeah.
That's why I like directing.
It's a crapshoot, yeah.
I like writing my own ticket. When I watch actors,
Do you want to direct a movie or whatever?
Yeah. One of the reasons I'm going to New York is to go brainstorm on a project that my business partner, investor, producer from Just Like Us,
Right.
he wants to carve out another project for us to do, and he wants me to direct it. And
Are you
Yeah.
thinking about the pilgrimage? Trying to get that going?
The Pilgrimage was a script that I wrote when I was 27 years old about my pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And it's a spiritual comedy. And yeah, it was kind of a life-changing experience. So I just, right when I got back, I wrote this fucking script called The Pilgrimage. That's something that I would I tried to shop that thing around, and people were just like, "Oh yeah, too soon." You know?
Too soon.
But now maybe it might be more open. I would rather do it. You ever see Robert Duvall's movie, The Apostle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great fucking movie, and he was great in it.
I
He
love
wrote
Robert
it,
Duvall.
he
Mhm.
produced it. I think he directed it, and I think he may have not nominated or won an Oscar for it. I can't remember, but that's right, she was.
Yeah.
And I think he self-financed it, or he wrote that script like 15, 20 years prior to making it, and he just could never get it made. And he was Robert Duvall. He was in The Godfather, and
Right.
people were just like, "Yeah, we don't get it. We don't see it." You know how Hollywood is.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just gonna kind of have to raise your own money and just go out and fucking shoot it. You know?
Yeah, I guess when you get to the point where you can just go, you know what? I'm going to do this. You're going to finance it,
Right.
the studio, whatever, and you go. That so many actors do that. They have
Yeah.
a what's the word? A project of love or whatever.
Passion project. Yeah.
Yeah, that they've
Sure.
never been able to get done, and
Sure.
and then they go ahead and do it. You hear that or you see that all the time.
And if you do it smartly, you know there are ways to get the financial reward and return on investment. But
Yeah, and those movies though are not always done for that. From
Sure.
from there, because hopefully the finances have already been there for you, or
Right.
are there, and you're making it. And one day that will be your project of love.
Yo, man, from your lips to God's ears, dude.
Yeah.
And I want you to be in it. Whatever
All right.
whatever project I get.
I'm
be in it.
available, guys. I am so available. I need work. Ahmed, I want to thank you.
I'll represent you. I'll represent. I'll be
I want to
represent.
thank you so much. This
I
has
love
been
you,
Just
man.
a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
honor.
He's going to be in New York, guys. If you're in New York, keep an eye out for him. And,
Yeah, and I'll be back in LA. And by the way, just to can we just kind of
sure.
wrap up
Yeah,
with this?
we're good.
I've been a comic almost 3 decades, which is scary for me to say. I don't say almost 30 years, 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen my career go up and down. I've seen a lot of comics go up and down. And I've seen the club scene in LA go up and down. Because, as you know, it's a very cyclical
Sure.
industry. You've been in it 40 years.
Yep.
And I will say this about the Improv. I was a paid regular at the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory for many years, 12, 15 years at both clubs, and don't perform there any longer because there was a bit of a coup that happened in the comedy world where I was kind of banished and literally banned from both clubs.
That's the through line of your career.
Bro, it's like I can't catch a break. Ban, ban. People are like, "What's your problem?" I'm like, "What's my problem? What's your problem?" No, I just I have a very strong personality, and I don't like bullshit, and I'm okay to speak my mind. And most people in the comedy world, not all but most, are very spineless and thankless and ungrateful, and don't have any real humility. Like when I referenced Chappelle and Ellen, they have humility. Most comedians do not have humility, and which is interesting because our whole career and job is based off of humility.
Right.
So it's kind of an oxymoron, I guess. But the Improv is always taking me in, and I appreciate that about this club. And
I'm
I'm
sure-
grateful to Rita and Paige and you, and every time I come in here, it's like open arms. So if you're gonna go to any comedy club in LA. Fuck the Comedy Store. Fuck the Laugh Factory. Come to the Improv. Yeah, I said it.
Well,
I mean, fuck them for now. I might go back. Who knows?
if you go back, we'll cut it out afterwards.
Well, we'll cut it out afterwards. He never said it.
Nah, I never did. He never said that joke in Dubai either. It's well, I really, again, I appreciate
I love
it.
you, man.
But
I'm
before you
grateful.
go,
Yeah.
I have my new traditional present for you.
Oh my God!
It's a.
I didn't bring you a birthday present, which I feel
forget it. It's,
silly about.
I'm going to give you my birthday present. It's an actual copy of this shirt.
Oh, sweet.
As I've told you before, guys, it's a collector's item.
I'll wear
okay?
it proud and loud.
There's
Thank you.
only about, 200 of them out there?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Only 200. Am I 199?
Yeah, this is the Ahmed Ahmed version
Sweet.
of Eddie's Bar.
Oh, that's awesome. I will wear that.
Podcast.
I should wear it right now.
Go for it, buddy.
gonna put it on right now.
We're going to watch you put it on. All right, guys.
All right,
Close
guys.
your eyes for a second.
Close your eyes, guys. It's not a pretty sight. Sorry,
That's
haven't
all
been
right.
working out lately.
Where's Bert Kreischer?
Bert Kreischer?
He works on stage without his shirt.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Here we go.
He's the first one to put this on. I love it.
Boom, in the moment.
There, turn around, show him the back. There we are. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ahmed.
Thanks, brother.
I want to thank Mike
Thank you
Carano
all.
again. Mike is my producer.
Thanks, brother.
Everything. We will see you next time for the next
Hi,
comedian.
Paige. I just said your name. Come over here and say hi really
hi,
quick.
Paige. You wanna
Will you come
say
over
hi?
here? I literally just said your name.
Well, let's get
Come here,
Paige.
girl.
Yeah, she did. He did.
Paige is the manager,
Booker.
talent booker, beautiful, extraordinaire. Hi. What's up, beautiful?
Turn around and say hi to the camera,
Okay, well, this is
Paige.
Paige. Oh my God.
All right. You can
Nothing,
say
two,
hi.
Two bits. All right.
Thanks again, guys.
See ya.
We'll
Bye.
see you next time at Eddie's Bar at the Improv.
See you all.
Keep on listening and watching. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. I don't care. Just let them download. All right. Bye.
Peace.